Tonight, I'm gonna teach something that we are going to be doing in the coaching group, but I felt really prompted to do this in this group, which is quite a practical subject. You'll have seen the video I did, but I'm going to do a live version of it because I felt like I need some practice to do this live because it's slightly different when you do it live to when you just record it live. So it's entitled, and I really feel this kind of fits in with, this arise and shine theme and my kind of wanting to help artists and myself as well gain visibility, because there's spiritual dimension to this, but the practical, the natural dimension, the wisdom dimension is also really important as well, because God gives us, these things are expressed through knowledge and understanding. God could do a miracle, but often he just gives us the tools we need. And so the title is, if I could only teach you one thing about marketing, this would be it. Okay. And it's interesting because I've been studying marketing for quite a while, and obviously I use it especially with ladies fitness, so it's been quite a turnaround understanding some things. And I was in a group called, I was in a paid membership called Adaptive for about 2 years, which was really good. It was run by Paul Pruitt. He spoke at one of Matt Tommy's conferences a while when I was in it. And so he taught a few things that really stuck with me. And so I've been studying it for quite a while. And really, I like to apply things. I like to distill things down to its basic nuts and bolts so that we can understand it and then apply it, because knowledge just for knowledge's sake doesn't help anybody. But if we can apply it, and we can apply it to our particular field, it can really, really help us. And that comes from my driving instructor, experience as well, where it's, you can't just know stuff. You've got to be able to show stuff, and people have got to be able to practice it. And it's not complex, this, but sometimes the most simple things can make the most difference. And it's a kind of, I suppose this is a kind of a mindset that helps when you're thinking about your art. And I'm not just talking about selling art. Obviously, that's a good objective for some of us, but it's about the very thing that if God gave us an artistic gift, a creative gift, I was talking to Maritza about this just a moment ago. God doesn't want us to hide in our little small corner. He wants us. We've got to do the work of making our art visible. No one's going to do that for us. And in one sense, even God can't do that, because we've got to do the work. And it's kind of like, putting our head above the parapet sometimes. This is the thing some of us don't like to do, which is understandable. But it's getting the skills that you need to do it in the way that you want to do it, and the way that you're comfortable with, and you kind of like where you know what you're doing. Fran, you're frowning there.
Sorry, it's just I know an Adobe Flash Player update just came up in front.
Okay, right. That doesn't matter. Right. Okay. So I saw your frown. I thought I've said something that's bad. Um, so it's so sometimes if you just understand something as kind of like I think of this as like a bird's eye view of marketing. Okay, and the thing that really matters, and everything kind of fits into this pattern that I was taught, and no one else. I've never heard anybody teach this to me anyway. So it's very simple, and I've been teaching this to my coaching group a bit. There are basically 3 phases that you need to be aware of in marketing, and these 3 phases kind of work together. So you don't normally do one, the second one, the third one. You normally do them all together. Okay, and it's very simple. It's awareness, engagement, and conversion. So those are 3 separate things you need to be doing with your art or your creativity. Okay, and I'll explain a little bit more in detail what the 3 things, and what you could, if you want to imagine this, I want you to imagine the engagement as a big circle. Okay, and then within that a smaller circle, awareness. I keep getting this wrong. The big circle is awareness. then in the middle, smaller, quite a lot smaller circle is engagement. And then in the middle, a tiny little dot, a little bullseye is conversion. Okay. And just to go through the three things, just to explain this, so it's really clear, and it's probably good if you've got this in your, you've got this as a picture in your mind. So awareness is about just getting visible. It's about just helping people know that you exist. And this actually is the thing that most artists don't do enough of. Right? What we do a lot of is conversion. We're trying to get people to buy our thing or see our thing or that kind of thing. Okay, but actually, as artists, we need to do much more of this awareness, and I'll explain why in a minute. And it's hard to do, I know. I was talking to Maritza earlier about this, and we'll have a discussion about this in terms of practicalities. But if you don't get out there in the real world, or you don't post your art, or you don't do anything, guess what? No one's going to know you exist, are they? It would take a miracle to get. So it's about putting your hand up, really. It's about, being out there, taking a bit of a risk, doing the things that you feel called to do, and showing up. Engagement. Now, this is the interesting one. Engagement's where it gets kind of a bit more tricky, as I found out this week on Facebook. Because engagement is where what you're doing. So this phase, you're building relationships, because marketing or being, showing your art or getting people interested in your art and your creativity, you've got to kind of make friends. You've got to have a conversation with somebody. There's a dialogue that's got to happen, and this is where it can get difficult, obviously. Because human beings, and sometimes I don't like this bit. I just want to go back into my hole and go, no, it's too difficult, because you know what people are like. Some people are, some people are nice, some people are not so nice. But it is about having a conversation. It's about, talking about your art. Some of us don't even like doing that, do we? We don't like engaging. But think about marriage. You can't have marriage without engagement, can you? It's like has to be, that's where you get to know the person before you commit. And conversion, the point where people are starting to, they're interested in what you're doing, and they might be like thinking, I might like your art. Conversion is that point of commitment, isn't it? Where people actually are going to invest in you and invest in what you've done. So if you've written a book, or you've done, whatever you've done creatively, it's that point where they're actually, gone from engagement to actually they're starting to know and trust you, and actually go, yeah, I really like what you're doing. I'm going to buy off you. And then there's that. So a conversion is obviously a transaction, isn't it? But this is the thing we need to do. We don't need to do so much of this if we've done the previous two phases. This is the thing. If we've really worked hard on the awareness and the engagement, we'll find the conversion becomes a lot easier. Because what most of us do is it's a bit like the evangelist in the lift. You walk in a lift and someone stands up, they talk to you about Jesus or something in the lift, and you're thinking, I don't know who you are, whatever, and you feel that's the kind of cold, it doesn't work. And this actually all applies to how, evangelism as well, interesting enough, because human beings are human beings, aren't they? And if as churches and the people, we actually followed this a bit more, we'd probably see more people come to Jesus. Because if we don't want to be, you don't want to be going in the conversion phase, do you, and trying to get somebody to accept Jesus if you've never ever had a relationship with them and they don't know who you are. And anyway, I won't go there. That's kind of a different topic, but it applies. That's what I've seen. It applies because human beings are human beings. And if we're going to make a decision, because the conversion phase is when you're helping people make a decision. It's a totally different kind of, and this is where you're making an offer. This is where you're actually making your offer. So the messaging in that stage is going to be different from, say, engagement, because in engagement, you're just asking questions. So I got myself into a little bit of trouble, but on Facebook, I purposely tried to engage. So I asked the question. I told people my experience and what I was thinking. I probably told them a bit too much, unfortunately, so they read into it, and uh, and I got some really positive discussions going, but I got some negative ones as well. So this is what happens when you engage with people. You will, people don't always read what you post either. Have you noticed that? They read what they want to see and hear. And it's very frustrating when you point it out and you say, I didn't say any of that. So how are you insinuating that? So that's part of the problem that comes when you start putting your head above the parapet. But I encourage you to do it, because this is the only way to do it. So you've got to be brave, and you've got to try and engage people. And we'll talk about various ways you can engage people as well, actually, in the discussion afterwards. So let's make sure I've covered everything I need. So yeah, going back to the awareness phase as well. Is everybody on here aware of the brand color of Coca-Cola? It's drumming into our heads, isn't it? Because they've spent billions probably on awareness, so that when we say Coca-Cola, we've got, their brand awareness is huge. Obviously, we can't do that, can we? Because we haven't got billions of pounds to spend. But here's the thing: if you're spending money on marketing, guess what proportions you're going to. So let me just ask this question. You can answer in the chat. So let's see if I can just do this. So you answer in the chat, actually, would be the easiest way to do it. So in terms of awareness, conversion, and engagement, say you were doing Facebook ads that followed these three areas, which one would you spend the most on, do you think? And which one would you spend the least on if you had a budget? Anybody guess? Would you spend more on conversion or more on awareness? Just shout out if you.
And just
Awareness.
Oh, not at all at once, though.
Awareness.
Awareness. Yeah, because if you think about that big circle, if you've got 10,000 people who know about you, probably this is only rough proportions, because it depends on the market and everything else. But let's say 1,000 people know about you. Probably only 100 people will you ever engage with, and then out of that 100, there's probably only like 10 people who are going to make a conversion. So that's why you need to increase your reach. This is what the technical term for the amount of people that you are aware of, that you exist, and you're an artist and you do your thing. Reach is really important, because the bigger number you've got of that, the more chance you have, you see, of making conversions at the lower end. Yeah, does that make sense? Because often we think, oh yeah, on Facebook, if it's on Facebook, for example, it's not actually as big as we think it is it really, when you think about it? So that's why it's hard organically to reach an audience. And then just another term you'll have heard, which is called frequency, which means, if somebody's seen your thing more than once, then they're going to remember it, aren't they? And that's part of brand awareness as well. So it's not just about 1,000 people seeing it. If all those thousands of people have seen it 2 or 3 times, then they're going to start to be really aware that you exist, aren't they? You're going to be top of mind. So that when you say, so for instance, our business, Ladies Fitness, I mean, we haven't got a big area. We've only got about 60,000 people living in Gosport, and 30,000 of those are women. So it doesn't take that long for us to cover the whole of Gosport. And what you want is obviously people to see your stuff several times. They do say, don't they, 7 times people see your ad or something, and then they think, oh yeah, they start to warm up. So you can also think about these audiences. This big audience out here is your cold audience. So the awareness is to reach the cold audience. They're not going to buy your thing. They just want to know you exist. So you've just got to gain their attention. Then you've got the middle audience, which is really your warm audience. These are the people who know you exist and are starting to get a bit interested in you, because they've seen your post, or they've seen you at a fair, they've seen you wherever you are, and they know about you. They could contact you if they needed to, kind of thing. And then obviously you've got the third the conversion. Those are people who are they're your fans. They're starting to get hot. They're starting to get committed to your values and your ideals, and they're starting to like what you do. So they're likely to be the people that might want to read your thing or do your thing or buy your thing. Does that make sense? So yeah, I think I've covered what I need to there. So let's have a discussion. So just keep this in mind. Well, any questions first? Actually, let's go with questions to start with, and then we'll and think about how it applies to you, because you know me, I want it to be practical to you, because it might be different for you than it is to someone else, but the principles still apply. So think of how you're doing things at the moment, and yeah, just to say, what most of us do as well is we tend to be sporadic, don't we, in terms of marketing. Yeah, Karen's laughing there. We all do, because life intrudes, and it's like it's so tough sometimes.
That's the word I would have used.
Right. Yeah. So the thing is, what you've got to, I think, having this view, this kind of like bird's eye view of what's called a funnel. So you're looking down the funnel, is helpful, because if you think about this holistically, as it were, this is what you should be doing all the time, as it were, not just once in a blue moon go, oh, what shall I do today? Oh, let's try and do a bit of awareness. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, let's try and engage with a few people. Nah, it didn't work. Oh, that did work a little bit. Oh, let's try and convert some people to buy my thing. What we're going to do is develop a plan where we're doing it consistently, and we're looking. That's another subject really, but this is kind of the map that we've got. So at least we've got this in our mind. We know where we're going. We know